All right. So it usually takes a few minutes to come in on phone. Just as I'm continuing on the announcements for tonight, closed captionings, we have resolved our technical difficulties on closed captioning. So if you'd like to see subtitles or captionings through the Zoom API, at the bottom of your screen, there should be an option to activate closed caption. It just says closed caption, and then you click on that, and it should bring up a window to say that says something along the lines with an option that says show subtitle. And that should start your captions, which I have on this computer and I have on that computer. All right. Sounds like, well, that's Tom. Promote to panelist. Tom, if you could at least just give me a mic check, just to make sure we're good there.
Hello, Michael.
Hi, Tom. Thanks. Walter, can we also do a mic check with you too? *6 to unmute.
Michael, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Awesome. So Walter, Walter,
right.
As a panelist, you now have free range to mute and unmute yourself as you see fit.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir.
Yep. I can mute you, but I'm not going to unless, you know.
No, don't mute me. Thank you.
Yeah, you can mute yourself or you can just put the phone down and be quiet and yeah.
Yep.
However you want to do it.
That'll work.
All
well,
right.
I was muted last night, so that's okay.
Let's see, there's Diane. There's Barbara.
Great.
All right. So let's see. Chris, can we do a quick mic check?
Yep, you got me?
Yeah, we're good. All right.
Hi,
let's
Walter.
See. Good evening, Chris. I'm back.
Awesome.
Diane, can we please do a quick mic check?
Sure, I'm here.
We're good. All right. Barbara, I don't see any icons next to you. There she is. She's just coming in. Okay. Barbara, when you get in, can we please just do a mic check?
Hello.
Hi, Barbara. Hi, Wendy. We are going to pull in. We're going to promote my lists that I've gotten for Brandon of Board of BOE members and staff to panelists when we get to your presentation. The fire department is first, so hopefully you guys can be patient with us. And well, it probably will take about 4 to 6 minutes to get everybody transitioned, which is kind of the norm, as Wendy, as I'm sure you're aware, when it comes to these sort of things. When we were meeting in person, we'd always have to rearrange to fit the Board of Ed in because there's a lot of people involved. So there may be a 4 or 5 minute transition period. All right, Wendy, I'm going to allow you to talk. It's using an older version of Zoom. All right, well, Wendy, I'm going to temporarily promote you to panelist. Oh, that's Brandon. Okay. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, cool. So I'm going to put everyone in now. How do you want me to? Do you just want to see the names pop in?
Just bring them in as attendees for now, so it doesn't clog up the screen.
Sure.
And then when the fire department is done, I'm going to have you be a co-host. So
Okay.
Are you going to be using Wendy's account or are you going to be using
I'm just
IT?
I'm just setting up under their names, so you'll see all the names populate the next few
Right.
minutes.
So just so you know, Zoom gave me a notification that you guys are using an out-of-date version. So
Okay.
I don't know if you have time to, it's quarter
Probably
till.
not.
I don't know if you have time to update or not, but just FYI.
Okay, cool. I will.
All right. So I'm going to demote you guys to panelists just so it doesn't clog up the screen, to attendees, sorry. And then once we bring in, I'm going to make you a co-host and then everyone else a panelist.
Got it. Understood.
That way if there's any technical problems, you can fix them.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. Hi, Pete. Pete, if you don't mind, could you please make me the host?
Mike. Can I do that?
Yes. If you hover over my name there should be a blue More button. And if you click on that, it should give you the option to make host.
Make host. There we go.
Super. All right, now I have all these buttons back. Okay, David, promote to panelist. Amy, promote to panelist. David and Amy, when you get on, can we please just do a quick mic check?
And I see, Mike, if somebody wanted to do closed caption, they go to the 3 bars more, closed caption pops up and they can click that, correct?
Yep. I've got it running on my main computer, and I have it running on a dummy computer that's not signed into any accounts or
Beautiful.
anything. So it
Thank
should
you,
be
Mike.
working. There's quite a bit of latency, so people are aware. So when you first activate it, it's not going to show up for 4 or 5 seconds. And latency is the amount of time between me talking and it showing up on screen. So you'll just have to forgive about 4 or 5 seconds of that. David, can we please get a mic check from you?
There we go.
All right, we got you.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Hey, Chris. Walter.
Hi, Pete. How are you?
Good
Good.
evening.
Walter
Walter,
is
you're
here.
back.
I am back. Thank you, sir.
There we
All right.
go.
Excuse
I
me,
have
folks.
found my way.
Nice.
Gaylord's promote to panelists. Gaylordsville Fire Department. I'm going to allow you to talk, and I'm going to ask you to unmute. And the question I have for you, is there anyone else we will need to pull in for your presentation?
Not for us, for the Gaylesville Fire Department. But I believe Northville and Waterwich will be signing on here momentarily.
Okay, so there is somebody else I would need to pull in for the presentation.
Yep, Waterwich, which will probably be Rich Squires, Mike. And then Chief Harris, Alan Harris for Northville.
All right, got it. All right. All right. James. Promote to panelist. Amy. Ray Jankowski, can we do a mic check?
Ray, when you go to your screen, take it and scroll the mic, the arrow all the way down to the bottom. And there should be on the left-hand side, a microphone. Just click that and that should unmute you. There you go.
Hey, Ray.
There you are.
Ray, can you just say something real quick to make sure we got the mic coming through?
Say something.
Say something. Okay.
Jeez.
Hello?
We're good. Thank you, Ray.
Hello, Ray.
Hey, Ray. How are you? And where's
I'm well.
Walter? Hi, Walter.
Good evening, Katie. I have found my way back.
I see that. I was told you were going to, so I was hoping it was true.
Ah,
And it
the
is.
truth has prevailed.
Well,
Yes,
that's how we like it. That's how we like it. Truth is.
Hey,
yes,
Amy.
we do.
Hi, Amy.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Amy.
Good evening.
Oh,
Hey,
wait,
All right,
Amy.
we got
Hey,
it.
Diane. Hey, Tom. Hi, Barbara.
Mayor.
Oh, Diane. Hello.
Hello there. How's everybody doing?
Good, thanks.
Oh, Barbara.
Okay, so
Howdy.
everyone who is or will become a panelist, just be aware that there's going to be a lot of people on screen tonight. So you'll have the freedom to mute and unmute both your audio and your video. And we kindly ask you to keep things from getting cluttered, especially since there's going to be a lot of screen sharing. That if you don't feel the need to share your video, to keep it muted until you decide it's time to come in. And same thing with audio, just so we don't have a lot going on. We are sticking to a fairly strict. There's Trevor. We are sticking fairly strictly to Robert's rules. So we are going to ask any panelist who has a question for a presenter or a comment to be made to use the raise hand feature, and Pete will call on you. And then you will have the freedom to mute and unmute yourself. You will not have to wait for me to do that for you. We did fix the screen sharing issue, so all panelists should be able to share screen. Let's see. Pete, I am going to make you a co-host just in case.
Okay.
Katie, I'm going to make you a co-host just
Thank
in
you.
case.
Thank you.
I don't see Walter O'Connor. Trevor, can you please just give me a mic check?
Yo.
All right, thank you.
Yo. Doug Skelly, could he be
There he
allowed
is.
in? Thank
Yep.
you.
And when Doug comes in, if we can get a mic check from him, just to be sure. Okay, so we are about 10 minutes till go time. Last minute things to take care of in terms of housekeeping. We are streaming this on YouTube and it is successful. Have a test run. The link is in the chat. So if you would prefer to watch this on YouTube, you can watch that in that link. You can also find it by going to youtube.com and just searching for the town of New Milford. The town's channel should be the first channel that shows up. It's got the picture of the pavilion on it. And it should be the first video that shows up. So if you prefer to go there, you can go there as well. And if this meeting does somehow meet its 500 person capacity, that is where the overflow will be for the meeting tonight. Now that said, you cannot participate in public comment via YouTube. You'll have to be in this meeting. And since we're at that moment, if you would like to participate in public comment, please use the raise hand feature now. What that means is instead of literally holding your hand to the camera, there should be a button at the bottom of your screen that says raise hand. And above that is a raise hand icon. It looks like somebody holding their hand up. So I will call on you. Trevor's got his hand raised. Trevor, would you like to participate in public comment? Is that what you're using that for?
No, I just want to confirm if somebody spoke and worked with Larry Tripp to make sure he can interact appropriately.
I don't know if that was clerically handled. I have, in case of emergency, we have a dummy participant ID for him to come in on phone if he needs to. So we have one for Walter Bear. We have 2 extras, and I've got one written right down here. So we can at least get him in by phone. Walter's here, so.
Mary Jane is in the attendees. You want to move her in?
Sure. Mary Jane, why is this not listed in alphabetical order anymore?
And then because this will have a lot of attendees, Mike, we're going to hold a policy of 3 minutes for public participation.
Okay. Megan Bird, I have you. Please keep your hand raised until you are called upon and actually do join in on public comment. Joe, I got you second.
You have Mandy?
Yep, I'm just writing them down. Joe,
okay.
Q second. And then I've got Mandy. You are third. And again, there is a hard close on roll call for public participation at 7 p.m. So if you want to participate, get those hand raised. All right. I'm still not seeing Walter O'Connor. Do we know what happens as far as administratively with the Board of Finance if he is not here?
Usually pops in, Mike, right around
right before go time. Okay.
Yeah.
It's 6:55. He's got a few minutes.
Yeah, he's got a few minutes. And just so, Pete, I think you heard this before, but Brandon has all of the town Board of Education members in a room with him. And they each have their individual Chromebooks. So when it gets to them, I'm going to promote all of them individually to panelists, except for Brandon, who I'm going to make a co-host, just in case there's any technical issues on his end.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike.
And just so folks know, there are two presenters for tonight. They are the various fire departments first, and then second is the Board of Ed. You'll have to forgive us as when we transition to the Board of Ed, there will be about 4 to 6 minutes worth of clerical transitions to bring everybody in and get everybody set up. So when that time comes, you'll just have to forgive us for the 4 or 5 minute delay that we get.
Oh, hi, Mary Jane.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Mary Jane.
How is everybody?
Good.
Hey,
good for a Thursday.
Doug,
Yeah.
did we get a mic check from you?
How's that sound?
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
Sing a few bars.
Okay, roll call for public comment is, I've got another 4 minutes. And right now I have in order that chronological order of when I saw the hands go up. Megan Bird, Joe Q, and Mandy. 1, 2, 3.
Mhm.
Ray, how about those Mets?
This could be the year. This could be the year, Ray. I know you're excited. Don't hold back on that excitement.
Okay, so there are a few questions in Q&A. Megan, you don't see a microphone. We are actually in the webinar extension. This allows us to have panelists, a separate category for panelists and attendees. So right now there isn't an option for you to unmute. What's going to happen is when it comes to public comment, I'm going to allow you to speak and then send you an invitation to unmute. And then you will have your 3 minutes to address the Board of Finance and the Town Council.
And Mike, Rich Squires.
I see Chief Squires is under
Yep.
Stuart Kyle.
Yep. So if we can,
So he is Fire Chief Squires. Okay.
yep. So if we can make sure we put him on.
Yep.
I don't see Chief Harris yet.
Is Larry Tripp going to be moved over?
See, let's see, where is he?
LT.
Got him.
He's LT. Yep. He's in
Yes,
the
I think
attendees.
I think he changed his name to Larry Tripp in the meantime.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Michael Gold.
Well, he's in the attendees. Don't you
Yep,
want to
just
move
moved
him?
Yep, just
Okay.
did that. Yep. Fire department. Michael, can we please get a mic check from you?
Can you hear me now?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
And Mike, real quick, is now we'll give it a minute. It's 7, then we'll close public participation. And then could you give the council and the public that's watching a brief overview again on how we're handling tonight?
Repeat that, please. Sorry.
At 7, we're going to close public participation.
We're going to close the roll call for it.
Yep.
Okay.
And before we add it on, if you could just kind of go over kind of the bells and whistles. If somebody wants closed captioning, where would they go?
Okay.
See that? And then
All right. So I'll give you that spiel right now. Shouldn't take very long, and then we'll close the roll call.
Perfect.
So at the bottom of your screen should be a button for closed caption. If you click on that button, there should be one of the options will be to show subtitles. All you have to do is do that. The subtitles have about a 7 to 8 second degree of latency. That means that latency is the amount of time between me talking and the words showing up on your screen. So if you don't see them at first, give it about 7 or 8, maybe 9 or 10 seconds, and then they should show up. I have them working on my dummy laptop. I have them working on my backup laptop. I have them working on my main desktop in 3 different accounts, including one which is not logged in. So this should be working just fine. But that's how you can do closed captions. I don't see anybody coming in via telephone except for Walter, so we shouldn't have to go over that.
Okay. And lastly, Mike, for us too, for these are being recorded. For those that want to see this later on, they can go to the town website, www.milford.org. Click on the budget, and it will take you to the hyperlink, which is our town YouTube page, and you'll be able to review those there and also view them in closed caption if you choose.
Real quick, too, last minute a notification. We are streaming this on YouTube just in case. It's doubtful that we will hit our limit, but if we do, we have overflow space there. The only caveat, of course, is that you cannot participate in public comment there.
I can see Walter O'Connor's here. You might want to move.
Okay.
There we go.
Did someone reply to
There's
Megan
Mike
Bird's
Mayholm.
question? Mike
Yes, we did.
Snella?
We
Okay,
took care of that.
great. Thank you.
All right, so we are
hold
at
on.
7:01, Mike.
Give me a chance to get Walter brought in.
Gotcha.
There we go. Walter and Nahum are coming in. Do we have Stephanie in here?
Don't see her.
Elaine's there, Elaine Barksdale. That
Elaine
may
Barksdale.
be Stephanie.
Elaine is in the
maybe Elaine.
attendees.
Yep.
Is Elaine
So-
our stenographer tonight, Pete?
Or it may be Stephanie under Elaine's name.
Ah, okay.
I don't know
So
yet.
whoever I just promoted Elaine to a panelist. If you could please unmute yourself and just check in with us.
Me.
And Elaine, we're seating Ray Jan
Just say you're here. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so
Hi,
Elaine.
Elaine. We know it's you.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening, Elaine.
Afternoon or whatever.
Hi,
So
Elaine.
will
Great
be-
to hear from you.
Elaine will be the recording secretary for
Elaine.
tonight.
Yep.
Okay. All right. And we should be ready to go. So just as a quick reminder, the only three names I see here for public comment are in order: Megan Bird, Joe Q, and Mandy. Meeting is yours, Pete.
Thank you, Mike. First, if we could all stand for the pledge. And Doug, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could have a moment of silence for the men and women in the armed forces and our first responders. Thank you. Next, Mike, public comment.
Okay. Megan, I'm going to allow you to talk, and then I'm going to send you an invitation to unmute. Go ahead.
Great. Am I all set? Everybody can hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. It's Megan Bird, 2 Carlson Road. And my public comment tonight is to do with the Board of Education budget. First, I would like to say thank you to the mayor for actually attending all of those meetings. That was nice to be there. And also thank you for not taking any cuts in your recommended budget to the town council. As you heard during those 4 nights of deliberations, the Board of Ed is down to its bare minimum. It's on its bare bones budget, and we need to fund our schools well. Realize this year is a very tough year to look at the budget and understand what we really truly need for next year, given the fact that we're in COVID and there's so many expenses that are related to that versus regular operating expenses. And it was a very difficult year to do the budget. But regular operating expenses need to be funded. Even if for some reason we're not back in school in the fall, they still need to be funded in the event that we are. So I sincerely hope that every member of the Board of Finance, as well as the town council, had a chance to watch the videos for those meetings and to hear what went into all of that, because it was a lot of work. And I know that they'll do a great job presenting it tonight. And I hope that you all will just keep the budget the way it is. Don't make any cuts to it and let the town actually vote on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Okay. Joe Q, allowed to talk. Asked to unmute. There you go. Joe, do we have you?
Yeah, Mike, can you hear me okay?
Yep, we're good. All right, shoot.
Great, thanks. I just wanted to thank you for turning on the closed captioning, and it looks like there's a chat feature at the bottom. It may be disabled. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be disabled for public participation, but Jennifer's with us here tonight, and she too is thankful. She's not feeling very well tonight, so she didn't want to speak, but she is thankful that it's up and running and operative. So thank you for that. I'd also like to say that I support the fire departments, all 3 of them. I think they do a great job. I think they're fiscally responsible, and I think we should support them. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay. All right. Mandy, you should be allowed to talk, and I just sent you an invitation to unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mandy. Shoot.
Okay, great. Mandy McDonald, 6 Mohawk Acres in New Milford. I'm here to speak to the Board of Ed budget tonight. I just wanted to say that I believe that Ms. DeCorpo did an excellent job of presenting everything very clearly. And I believe that after last year, the Board of Ed and the school district cannot sustain any further cuts. They've done their due diligence. And as Megan said, I would like to see this budget go to the town Board of Finance and to just be passed as is and let the voters decide. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy.
All right, that's it, Pete.
Okay. What I'd like to do is call back to recess the town council and Walter, if you could do for the Board of Finance.
Can't hear you,
Call
Walter.
Board of Finance back from recess.
Thank you. So next we have up for tonight is Gaylordsville, Northville, and Waterwich Fire Departments. And I believe we have Chief Squires and Chief Bergman. Is Alan Harris come on yet?
Yes, he has.
Okay, and Chief Harris as well. Could we unmute them all? And
I'm promoting them to panelists in case they want to share stuff with us.
Perfect.
All right. So I just got to get to Stuart Kyle. Okay.
Okay. And Chief Squires, would you like to lead us off with Waterwich first, please?
All right. Good evening, everybody. Hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, we can.
All right. You know, this year our budget did increase. We're looking at about a 7% increase over last year's budget. Some of the increases this year, one is that we're looking to replace our Zodiac boat. Last year, or actually 2 years ago, we replaced a rowboat that was a 1970. The department went out with our own funds from fundraising and stuff and purchased a new boat that was roughly around $35,000. Our Zodiac now is about 18 to 20 years old. We're filling up every couple of days with air because it is leaking. So we're looking at replacing that with another Zodiac that can access the river and the lake. One other increase that we had this year is our bell harnesses. We started that program last year. That's a harness that the interior firefighters will be wearing in case they get into trouble. It's a lifeline that they can bail out of a residence safely with the proper training and stuff. We did apply for a FEMA grant last year, and the grant did not come through. Most of the grants were going to COVID-related items. So we have budgeted the other $19,000 to continue our training, retrofitting our gear, and purchasing the harnesses. We have purchased quite a few of them this year. We want to get the rest of the members that are interior firefighters with that gear as life safety gear. Some of the other items, we do have a line item in there for our new rescue truck for equipment, and we're replacing a truck that's about 30 years old. As you know, we have Hearst tools. The Hearst tools years ago were hydraulic, hydraulic pumps. We had 2 pumps on the old rescue truck. We have now moved over to what they call e-tools. They're all battery operated, jaws of life, spreaders, and rams. And since we're not putting these hydraulic tools on here, we have 3 rams that are hydraulic now, and we need to replace them. And they're roughly about $9,500 a piece. And then there is some other old aging equipment that we need to replace with the new truck. Again, you know, equipment that's a truck that's 30 years old has had equipment that's, you know, 20 to 30 years old that we need to replace. Just going through here, we've increased our turnout gear. We're moving forward this year. We started to outfit our interior firefighters with a second set of gear. So if we do have a structure fire and their gear is, you know, dirtied, soiled, wet, they can bring it back to the firehouse, start cleaning it. And if we happen to have another call, we'll have a second set of gear so they can answer that call too. Right now, if we had a back-to-back call, a lot of our active members could not respond to that call with the proper gear because they don't have a second set. And again, you know, the costs are going up on that. It's roughly about $4,000 a firefighter for the coat, the pants, the boots, The boots just went up another $25. They were at $400. They were at $400 last year. I just got a new bill. They're at $425 for a pair of boots. So that's where our added cost is. We're looking, the gear has to be replaced every 10 years. So we have a lot of firefighters now that are 6, 7 years old. So we're looking at getting that second set of gear. They'll still be able to use the other set for 3 to 4 years. Also along the lines of gear, we've done some cost savings with driver gear. This is an interior gear, about half the price, but it is still some protection for our drivers. To protect them if we're at a car fire or there's some kind of explosion, they would have protection, and this includes a coat and pants and boots and a helmet, and that gear is at about half the cost of an interior set of gear. So that was one additional cost. Also, our line item for physicals has gone up a little bit. We had a good year. We brought in a lot of new members at the beginning of last year. We brought in 2 or 3 members during the COVID pandemic. We have about 2 or 3 now that have been coming around looking to join the department. So that's the increase in the physical line. Just to give you an idea, last year we did 683 calls, I believe it was. It was 6 or 7 calls short of our all-time record of 690. So we had a busy year.
Thank you, Chief. We're going to have all the chiefs report first, and then we'll have questions for each one. And for those following in the budget book, it's page 143. Chief Harris, Northville.
Good evening, folks. Thank you for having us to this meeting. Our budget this year went up about $1,400 from the previous year, I believe. We really haven't had significant increases in any of our line items. Typically, we ask for what it takes to open the doors. Our fixed expenses, truck fuel, building, heat, insurance, training, physicals, and truck maintenance. Our equipment this year is slightly down. And that's pretty much all we have. We really haven't had any major changes at all.
Thank you, Chief. Next, we have Gaylord Joe Fire. Tyler? Chief Tyler?
Good evening, members of the County Council and Board of Finance. First, I'd like to start with offering my condolences to the Waterwitch Fire Department on the loss of their longtime member, Robert Golombeski. He was a good, upstanding citizen and member of this community and has a long history in the fire department. If you have our budget request before you, the significant changes that we've had is in our building and grounds line. Mainly that is due to we have a well that needs to be replaced. It's over 20 years old and it's not producing as well as it has in the past. And by drilling the new well, it'll better allow us to better serve not only the community, but our department. We noticed, unfortunately, storms seem to be happening more and more. And instances like what's happening currently in Texas, where there are significant power outages and needs for potable water, that's coming more and more in our area. So being able to drill a new well will allow us to do that. Additionally, items that we've had increase is in our insurance line item. Our insurance line item has gone up because just the cost of doing business. We've brought our new tanker 4.4 online, and we've also within the past year and a half began offering employee assistance program to our members. That if anyone's familiar with it, it's a great program that to aid our members in both financial and other problems or that they might face in their lives. Another line item that is increased is in the area radios. We're looking at replacing 6 new radios to our first in apparatus. The radios that we currently have are over 15 years old and are in need of replacement. The current portables that we do have, it's becoming harder and harder to find replacement parts. And the last area that we have increased with is in the area host testing. It's just the cost of replacing hose that has not passed inspection. So that is the Gainesville budget. We're holding down the north corner on Route 7, doing the best we can and addressing both fire related and EMS emergencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And we have first question from Councilwoman Francis. Katie?
Thanks. First of all, thank you all for your presentations. Chief Squires, I'm happy to hear you've gotten several new members and then maybe a few more. That's fantastic. And yes, condolences to all of you who worked with Bob Galambesky. I knew him, went to school with him. Very sad.
Thank you.
I think it's good you worked on extra set of gear. Nobody should have to be fighting a fire, and especially if it's cold and wet gear or at any time. So thanks for that. Northfield, thank you, Captain Harris, keeping things level. I just have a question. Gaylordsville, I'm sorry, I forgot your first name.
Tyler.
What is it? Oh,
Chief Tyler.
it's Tyler. Okay. Here's a question. How many members do you have in Gaylordsville? Oop, you're muted. Can you unmute him, Mike? Oh, there he goes. Okay. How many? Oh, now he's back. Never mind. I'll find out.
Oh, no,
Okay.
I got it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm here. Sorry. I apologize. The button and the delay was getting me.
That's
Even though
all
it was
right.
explained earlier in the meeting, the lag
That's
was
okay.
getting me.
So how
we
many
have
members?
We have 30 active members, and with an additional 6 that are in our auxiliary unit.
Okay, great. I was glad to hear you're replacing radios that are 15 years old, and I'm very glad you're inspecting the hoses. I mean, I know it's expensive, but it's something we don't want to find out the hard way that they needed to be changed and they weren't. So for all of you, thank you very much. As a resident, I appreciate everything that you do, and continue to bring in members. Good job.
Chris?
Yeah, I want to echo my condolences to Waterwitch Fire Company for your loss. And I would, just say that, first of all, I appreciate that you all are really pretty prudent in your budgets year over year. And you provide extraordinary value to this town, probably never more so than this year. A lot of what you've done this year have not only helped protect us, but help buoy the spirits of this town during certain times of the year. So I, thank you all for that. And yes, so whatever equipment you need to keep yourself safe and that keeps us safe, I'm all for. My only suggestion maybe going forward that we, understand maybe capital requests and make sure we're categorizing things appropriately. But, the Zodiac, I think when we look at issues we've had in this town over the last couple of years with water safety, please, get a new boat. But thank you all again.
Dave?
Yeah, this is for any 3 of you. I was just wondering, I've always wondered, your volunteers, do any of you receive a stipend for your efforts, or reimbursement for your training, equipment for your personal cars, things of that nature?
I can answer some of them questions. No, there's no stipends that we receive. Again, if you look at our training budget, I think we went over about $2,000. We cover all the Fire 1, Fire 2 classes, fire instructor classes. And we have many members that are MRTs, medical response technicians, and EMTs. And we cover all the initial classes and the refresher classes and such. And we did start a couple years ago. As you know, we all have the tax abatement of $1,000. We have a lot of members, a lot of the younger members that are, not able to purchase a house in town because of the pricing and the housing market. And
Right.
started the gas program, so they're getting their discount, they're getting their tax abatement on their personal vehicles, and then up to $599 in gas cards if they meet the requirements. So,
Yeah, well, yeah, that concerns me about, not owning a house, because when you rent, you're indirectly paying taxes. So I would hope that we could work it out, and perhaps, Mr. Mayor, we could work it out so that those that rent, volunteering your time, it's 24/7. I believe that's the least we could do. And I don't believe it should be punitive because you don't own a house. And I understand about the gas, but I think the gas should be paid for all of you guys, not just in that. I honestly believe that.
And Dave, I wholeheartedly agree. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, we set up with both our policemen and firemen the ability to have reduced and low cost, and it's sometimes no cost financing through CHAFA because of the first responders.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, if you rent, it shouldn't be held against you because you rent. It's an indirect taxes you pay through your rent anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And what I'd also like to, David, and we've talked about this before, once the budget is completed and we go through referendum, I'd like to set up a town council subcommittee where we can look at our volunteers and see what we can do to better help them. Because I've seen firsthand myself what a true asset they are for us.
Yeah, consider me a volunteer for that.
Perfect. Thank you, Dave.
And again, gentlemen, thank all your members as well. And look forward to some more barbecues.
Thank you.
Mary Jane?
Hi, yes, I also want to echo everybody else's comments. Thank you so much for all your volunteer work. It is so valuable to this community, and I can't even imagine what the price tag would be if we had to pay for your services. I have a question about, I see under Water Witch, there's an item for cancer screening, which I think is great, but I don't see it under the other fire departments. Is there a reason why they're not getting cancer screening, or is the item under Water Witch covering all the fire departments?
I can speak for Gaylordsville. Is that we have incorporated it in our firefighter protection and safety line item for our members.
So it's just not broken out as Water Witch is broken out.
Right there.
Northville has not initiated that yet. We're in the process of revamping our physical system, and that's part of the discussion.
Yeah, it would seem that it should be across all fire departments. What actually are the chemicals that you're exposed to?
A lot of plastic.
Yeah.
A lot of plastic, a lot of synthetics. When you look at going back 25, 30 plus years ago, houses were made of wood, furniture was made of wool and cotton, and now a house is basically, all the contents are volatile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The off gases, firefighter cancer is a big deal.
Yeah, so it would seem important that every single department should be itemizing for this, I would think. I think this is important that you're covered for this. So just a thought.
Thank you.
I do not see any other hands raised for questions. So with that being said, to the chiefs, thank you very much for all of your service. Please tell all of your members that we cannot thank you enough. And again, Chief Squires, our condolences to the town for Bob and his family. And thank you again for all your guys' service. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Next,
time.
Mike, if we could begin to move over our
Yep.
Board of Ed. And
Everybody
Superintendent Corpo, please.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. It's going to take just a moment. There's Al Harris. It was Stewart. Okay, looks like he's signed off. All right. So, members of the board, just give me a moment here while I pull people in. I'm going to pull you guys in just by the order of the list that Brandon's given me. So, Wendy. Wendy is a panelist. Joe Fiala, panelist. Tammy, panelist. Olga.
Anthony Giovanni, he's.
Yep. No, I got a list here. He's on there.
Okay.
Alicia. Not to panelist. Kathy Calabrese, panelist. Laura Olson. Olson L, that must be Laura. Anthony. Not to panelist. Catherine Gabbianelli. Kevin Monret. And lastly, Brandon.
Also, Mike Cynthia Nabosny, she is a Board of Ed member.
Okay.
Eileen Monahan, she's a
Give me
Board
1
of Ed
second.
member.
Cynthia. Eileen.
Wendy, do you want any of the principals, or Superintendent DeCorpo, do you want any of the principals, or do you just want them in attendee mode for now?
Attendee mode will work. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Okay, one last thing, just bear with me. I want to, because Brandon is with everybody and he's the IT director, I want to make him a co-host just in case anything goes wrong on their end. Where is Brandon?
And hey, Mike, Alicia may present as well, if that makes a difference.
Okay, so two things. As all panelists should be able to share screen, we have the functionality with webinar to have multiple users share screen at the same time. This could get confusing, so I don't recommend doing multiple share screens if you can avoid that. But as long as that suits your needs, that's where we are. So should have everybody pulled in. Brandon and Alicia, is there anyone else that needs to be pulled in? I don't see.
No, I think you're doing great, Mike. Everyone's in that needs to be in. Thank you.
All right, go ahead, guys.
Wendy and then Superintendent DeCorpo, thank you, and thank your leadership team for joining us this evening. Take it away.
Great. Good evening. Thank you. Honorable Mayor Bass, members of the Town Council, members of the Board of Finance, and the Town of New Milford community. My name is Wendy Fallenbach, and I'm the chairperson for the New Milford Board of Education. I join you in this presentation with my Vice Chair, Joseph Bea, my Committee on Learning Chair, Emmy McInerney. We have board members on the call, and Ms. Cindy Nabosny is here this evening as well. We also have the administrative team, Superintendent Alicia DeCorpo, Catherine Calabrese, Interim Superintendent, Anthony Giovanone, Director of Fiscal Services, Kevin Monret, Director of Facilities, Laura Olson, Director of Special Education, Catherine Gabanielli at Human Resources, and Brandon Rush, Director of Technology. I'd like to begin with a brief overview of my presentation and the letter of transmittal. The transmittal of 2021-22 adopted budget. I am pleased to present the New Milford's educational adopted budget for the 21-22 school year. This budget of $65,846,024 represents a 2.14 increase over the 2020-21 operating budget. The budget was passed unanimously by the Board of Education on January 27th. This percent increase includes contractual and special education increases and includes financial offsets in staffing, medical insurance, and other realignments. With the proactive creation of the COVID account in June of 2020, and in collaboration with the town of New Milford, this has enabled the board to fund much needed staffing materials for that area without impacting our operational budget and not burdening the taxpayer. Without this collaboration, the budget before you would be significantly higher. This is the lowest percent increase requested in 5 years, in spite of the complications brought as a result of the global pandemic. Again, the board unanimously approved this request for 2.14% or $1,384,248 over the last year. We recognize the complexities and the challenges to put forth a budget which enables us to fund the needs of the district and the balance and the burden of the taxpayer. Our budget process is a year-round process. Each month, the Operations Committee brings forward monthly personnel data, transfers, budget position reports. Those items, as well as contracts, audit, and financial components, are brought forward to the full board for further review each month. Thus, there are 2 reviews each month, pretty much year-round. The superintendent and the members of the cabinet presented budget workshops on December the 8th on the topics of enrollment projections and COVID budget, and on December the 15th on the topics of ODP placements, transportation, and excess costs, as well as the capital plans. I'd like to thank you, Mayor, for your participation on that. These evenings were all in addition to 4 budget hearings in January by the board. The public was encouraged to attend and offered public commentary prior to and at the end of our budget meetings. The 2021-22 is the lowest budget in 2016 during a global pandemic, no less. Here is the percent of the total budget by category. $65,846,024 is our request. The salary is at 60.41%, benefits 16.73%, regular busing 6.27%, transportation ODP tuition 6.10%, utilities 2.40%, and all other at 8.09%. Here is a breakdown of the 2.14% budget increase. If you look at our salary line from 2021 to 2022, $893,612, 2.29%. The benefit line reflects a decrease of $263,763 or 2.38%. Our professional line, professional services, will reflect an increase or change of $137,201, 3.60%. Property services, $7,389 or 0.81%. Other services, $1,164,557, 14.71%. Supplies, a decrease of $16,548. Our 5-year capital plan has a $0 amount, and the capital plan expenditures, when brought forward, will be brought forward on a need basis with the approval of the Board of Education, the Town Council, and the Board of Finance accordingly. Our capital is a budget change of $3,777. And our dues and fees are a change of $4,623. The budget to budget change is $1,381,248, representing 2.14%. The allocation of the budget increase to our major object codes are salary 893, 612, 64.70%. The benefits reflect 19.10% decrease. The professional services 9.93% increase. Property services 0.53% increase. Other services 84.31%. Supplies decrease 1.20, capital 0.27, dues and fees 0.33, and the revenue 39.79%. I'd like to take a moment to outline those drivers: professional service drivers, technology 76,000, Power School, second piece of the implementation, Google Enterprise, Peer Deck, Adobe Sign, Help Desk software. Special education 74,000, student care workers, IPP clinicians and consultations, and independent evaluations. PPS 42,000, additional a 0.5 full-time of the BCBA support, grade 6 through 12, plus the Litchfield Hills. The new summer programs, 25,000, and legal fees, 5,000. When we go down to the other service drivers, special education, out-of-district placement, tuition, 846,000. Special education, out-of-district transportation, 181,000. General busing contract, 120,000. Athletic transportation, 28,000. Liability, auto, property insurance, 7,980. This is our major object code breakdown. The Board of Education budget. The inflation rate average over the last 10 years is 1.72%. The Board of Education allocated funds averages 1.17%. The educational budget history from 2011 to 2021. As you can see, the increases approved 0.44, 0.64, 2.89, 2.23, 0.36, 0.83, 1.68, 0.32, 1.63, and the fiscal year we're in, 0.66. Those are the budget approved, which you can see indicated here, and then you can see the town. The 10-year average is 1.17%. The budget increases and the per pupil ranking. The Board of Education has strived to keep the cost down. This leads, the funding also leads into the per pupil expenditures. In 2014, New Milford was 141 out of 169 in the per pupil expenditures district-wide. There are 24 districts in our DIRG D, and we are the third out of 24, third from the bottom. Shelton and Ledyard are below us. Our per pupil expenditure is $15,457. The average for the DIRG is $17,687. Bridgeport is approximately $128 less on their per pupil expenditure than New Milford. They also qualify for federal and state funding in which New Milford does not qualify for. The board is ever so mindful of the charge to provide the best services with the allocated funds. With this in mind, it would be remiss not to remind everyone of the collaborations along the way with the town. These numbers do not show up so clearly in the presentation or the process, so I feel the need to highlight them on behalf of all the hard work. In this budget, 2021-22, there has also been recognized a $250,000 ISF deferment from the year prior. After conversations with the town and the board, we've agreed to each defer the $250,000 relief, thus reducing our budget and at no cost to the taxpayer, and also not a back-to-back use of the Internal Service Fund. In December 2018, the Board of Education, Town Council, and Board of Finance embraced the move from self-insured to SPP. That insurance plan was a huge undertaking and will save millions for the town and board together over the course of the plan as it does run its course. The insurance premiums average 11 to 13% as the SPP trends at 5. This was 2 years in the making with a lot of meetings and a lot of time investment. Many of you were a part of that, so we thank you. The medical insurance line items reflect the savings, as the premiums would have certainly been higher, a tremendous cost avoidance to the town of New Milford. We are the only district in the state with an exit MOU and one that is funded with the backup of our Internal Service Fund. The most current is the COVID-19 account. At the end of last year, the Board of Education recognized line items would not be fully expended as the pandemic progressed. COVID-19 supplies and preparation would be needed to protect and help our town. We worked diligently with the Town Council, Board of Finance, and our auditors to navigate a way to preempt the possibility of a supplemental tax bill to our community. This was a very proactive approach to mitigate costs we knew were certainly coming and in large numbers. The 2019-2020 end of the year balance of $2.9 million and the 2018-19 $200,000 end of the year balance were set aside into the COVID-19 account, a separate account outside of the operational budget, which allows us to draw upon for this world crisis. Without this process, the COVID-19 expenditures would have been added to our budget before you. That new budget total would equate to 6.95% had this not been done. This budget is not 6.95%, it is 2.14%, all with funds set aside under the full accountability, and may I add, at no additional cost to the taxpayer. Other districts have had much higher budgets to parcel in COVID costs or coming off years of larger allocations. Here are some numbers and slight comparison. Danbury, 9.82%, Easton, 6.10%, Monroe, 5.85%, Reading, 5.10%, Stonington, 4.30%, Watertown, 4%, Wilton, 3.95%, Region 12, 3.58%, Ridgefield, 3.45%, Southington, 3.30%, Brookfield, 3.29%, and Newtown, 2.58%, with Wallingford at 2.13%. New Milford's average is an entire percent less, even after lower budgets from previous years. In closing, I ask that you support the Board of Education's budget as requested in full. This is by no means a wish list. This is a well-balanced budget request. We thank you, and we would welcome the opportunity to questions and comments. Thank you.
Chris?
Thank you, Wendy, and Superintendent DeCorpo and everyone else. So first of all, Wendy, and thank you for stepping into the chair. I'm sure a year ago you didn't think you'd be where you are, but I appreciate you stepping up and I think doing a great job.
Chris.
And And I'll also say, and probably a lot of people are aware, I've been critical of the budget process in the past of our school district. I think this is as good a one as I've seen. So I think you all have been pretty transparent, and I think you've done a pretty good job. Having said that, I still do have a few questions.
Sure.
The zero capital, is that because you feel you have enough in capital reserves to cover anything to come up, or should we be worried about unknown things coming up and the town might have to cover costs, that sort of thing?
It's a great question, actually. As of right now, we have $550,620 in our capital reserve. The process in the past, Chris, has been that we've had capital line items or capital portion in here in which the board has had to zero out to keep our budget down. And we've gone back to the board, the town, and the Board of Finance and had those expenditures approved. We do have a 5-year capital plan. There are many things on the 5-year capital plan over the years, and what we are working on with the town that we might be able to take off that 5-year capital plan by working in a collaborative manner. So we do have things coming, but as we begin to bring those forward, what we're going to be doing is, quite frankly, going back to the old-fashioned way. They come before the operations committee, the facilities committee. We digest the need. We take them before the town council and the Board of Finance for those approvals before we're allowed access to that. But yes, we do have, and if you look in our appendix in the back of our budget book, you will see the plans accordingly. But yes, there is a zero because we're going to do it step by step, project by project.
Okay.
And Chris, Wendy, if I could interject for just a moment too. So when we're looking at the capital items, one of the things that the council and Board of Ed agreed upon was the NV5 program. That NV5 program, as I think we're aware, and some of the Board of Finance members will become more aware as this moves forward, is we're looking at the energy savings as we're doing the audit. And that energy savings component would be the cash flow that we would use for the requested capital items. So one of the things I'm very happy about is our partnership with the board, especially when we're looking at capital, how to do that and how to do it in a productive way. And one of the yields that Wendy talked about was looking at going to the state partnership plan, which offered for the educational side a better insurance program at a reduced cost, which saves the town millions of dollars. We're also looking at any other ways to look at efficiencies as we look together to partner together. So it's to me, you can also already see a yield or an ROI as we move forward.
Great. Thank
May
you.
I comment? Thank you, Mayor. I had NV5 as part of my overview, but we're just coming into that phase. It's an exciting possibility for the town. It has potential of saving a substantial amount of money and having our capital funded. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Great. The next question is, one of the drivers on the increases, I believe, are, I think, 7 slots in special education for next year that are kind of placeholders. And I think there's transportation associated with that.
Yes.
Can we talk about why we need 7?
Yes, I can give the breakdown and then we'll give the backup to that and I'll turn it over to Ms. Cooper. In this budget that we are in, we had 30 out ODP plus 5. We currently have 35. All 35 of those are allocated. It's a definite. So moving forward next year, since all 35 are taken, we know that we have to put this dollar amount in for out-of-district placements coming in. Now, I know there's been some conversation with ODP, and I don't know if you wanted to discuss a little bit about that, Mr. Corpo, on your slide regarding that and perhaps some of the support on that.
Thank you, Ms. Fallenbach. I'd love to do that. So We did a really detailed analysis, Ms. Olson, myself, and Mr. Giovannone, to look at the historical data on out-of-district placement and also looking at the historical cuts that the board made in their decisions when they had to make some significant cuts to the budget over time. With that being said, this fiscal year, we pretty much, I could say, hit a wall in terms of the number of seats that we had available and being completely filled, and wondering what would happen if between now and the next few months, students moved into district that already had tuition being paid and programs in their previous district moved into New Milford. We are in a situation where, in recognizing the historical data and the cuts that were made, that we believe collectively, Ms. Olson and myself, by adding in these additional placeholders, 2 for public school tuition, and then the 5 remainders at private, which are variable. It doesn't mean that they have to stay private or public, but in budgeting those amounts, it's 2 public placeholders, $60,000 each at $120,000 total, 5 private placeholders at approximately $70,000 each for $350,000 total. Now, placements for private and public tuition can vary anywhere between $70,000 up to hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the type of program that a student comes into district with. We believe there's going to be a lot of home sales in New Milford. We're seeing that data from various committees that I'm sitting on. We recognize that people may have the ability now to move out of cities like Danbury into New Milford. We've seen some movement in that direction as well. And we know that we will need these placeholders. We know that we will get 60% reimbursement in excess cost over the course of next year for any reimbursable expenses that are affiliated with these placeholder positions. And I can speak for the team in saying that we would not have added these in to be additional placeholders if we were in the situation that we were in this year. Wondering if what we'll do if we have additional students moving into district and have pretty significant costs to meet. We don't want to come back to the councils and ask for additional funding. In the history since I've been here and in Ms. Olson's tenure, that has never had to happen. And we feel very strongly that these placeholders are necessary, along with the affiliated transportation amounts that coincide with them, for the nature of billing that we're receiving in transportation. The increases there are significant across the state. We don't have any control over those costs. We do our best to mitigate the costs by, pre-COVID, trying to have children travel together if they're going to the same location. And that's become increasingly difficult, obviously, with COVID-19 and other factors. So we recognize that this is a situation that we believe needs to stay put as is without us realizing any risk heading into next year based on our data that we've been analyzing and what we know could happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent DeGropo. And by the way, congratulations on the position.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
And I guess, and I understand what you're saying, and you're really trying to do your best to project forecasts in the future, what's going to happen, and that's obviously an inexact science. So let's say it's actually 5 that come in and not 7. And here's, I'll be transparent as always. My concern is we get the budget, we don't use it, but then that becomes the basis for going forward. And any reduction is called a cut. And, so would there be any real issue? I know you said, hey, we've never had to come back to the council for more, but is there any realistic issue with doing that if you have to?
Well, it's in addition, I think it would be, yes. And the reason for that too is included in these costs also is anytime we have to go to mediation to help save the district costs associated with some of these out of district placements or, just really difficult situations in which the district wasn't able to meet the needs in the way of the child or tried to do the best they could. And the parent is requesting outplacement. The cost for mediation also comes out of this line. And if we didn't have funding in this line and we had to come back to the councils to request it, we could be in a bit of a situation. In addition, we have to pick up where the program left off for the child in a very short span of time before they enter district. You have to hold the PPT, meet with the family, look over all of the IEP'd, what's the word I'm searching for here? Objectives and goals and the programs that were built in the child previously had to see what the district could do and work with that out of district placement facility. So there's a lot of moving parts. It could potentially stall us significantly and put us in a situation where we're not in compliance.
Okay, great, thank you. And I think I only have two more questions, so bear with me. One, the busing contract. So someone like me has an assumption that our bus company had a lot of cost savings through this COVID. And so can you maybe set me straight on that?
Sure. Do you want me to?
I'll start and then we can. Right now, we are in year 4 of 5, I believe, of our bus contract. If you look on page 71, you'll see our transportation line indicated there with the number for transportation. With regards to this year, we will be working with the bus company in future conversations to see exactly where we're going and how it's going to affect us. We had conversations with the bus company last year, and is it fair to say with 7R, that we continue to go, and we're going to continue to work with the bus company to see if we have any kind of offset. But right now, we have, I think it is 3% that's reflected in this bus contract. It's 3%. That is the increase on the transportation line. And we are going to work with our bus company, as we have continued to do so, on any kind of contractual mitigation. So I can't give you an exact answer right now as to what the differential, if any, would be. Am I missing something?
No, so I just wanted to add to that a little bit, if I may. We did talk about if there could be potential savings, but because at the time when we were planning the budget, remember that was happening like November, December, January.
Right.
We knew as a collective, the Board of Education and the Central Office Cabinet, that we were going to be opening schools full in. And in order to make that happen, we have to make sure that we're not going to the bus company and trying to negotiate too early, knowing that we are going to be expending a lot of the funds now moving forward. There really hasn't been a reduction in bus runs with the exception of remote learning days. The buses are running every day in hybrid. We have to offer busing and transportation for every student, regardless of what model we're in, meaning full in or hybrid. But we will be working with the bus company, as Ms. Fallenbach said, to try to realize any savings at year's end for those times where we were remote, or for any reduction in services over time. But that's a negotiation. And so we don't know what the result will be, therefore we could not include that in our budget. Preparing it, because it's still an unknown to this day.
It's a great question, and it is definitely a conversation that we've had from the very beginning. As Mr. Corpo stated, it's a little early for that, but we are well aware that we may have, some type of arrangement that we could go back to the company with.
Okay, I think that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie?
Thank you, Mayor. Wendy, of course, like everybody, I want to say thanks to you and the Board of Ed. I know this is a lot of work, and also Superintendent DeCorpo, congratulations, by the way, and all of the educators that worked on this. I just want to, there's a lot of people who are going to talk about all the different aspects, but I just want to say that in a very stressful year that we've gone through, and certainly the school and all of you have put up with a lot. I want to thank you because I really think it's a very thoughtful budget that you have put together. And I'm really looking forward to continued collaboration. I'm so glad that that's finally come to fruition, that we started to do that, because it really is cost savings for both. And at the end, it's going to help for educating our children. And that's really what this is all about. I know we talk about money every time this year, but it's really about the kids. And certainly after this year, I know you all feel it probably far more than the rest of us, but you've done a great job, and I appreciate what you've done with the budget. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Katie. Mary Jane?
Hi, good evening. Also, I want to say thank you to the Board of Education and to the administrators and everybody who works on this budget and who works hard all year long. I've often said that I think the Board of Ed is probably the most difficult board to sit on. They have the most amount of work to do and committee assignments, and I really give you all a lot of credit. I have to say, and I say this every year, that the per pupil ranking that we have in this town, I think is a really sad state of affairs. Second from the bottom in our DERG, 141 out of 169 towns. I just don't know what to, I don't know what to make of this anymore. You know, like, I mean, it's the same thing year after year. And I know you worked hard to keep the increase down, but you just have to think that there are a lot of things that our kids are missing out on in this town. One of the things I wanted to ask about was mental health needs and how that has increased. Obviously from COVID, there are many issues going on, especially with high school students and probably, I'm sure, in the lower grades too. And I'm wondering how, you know, financially, is this money coming out of the COVID money that is coming from the state, or have you increased social workers, psychologists? Are you doing a lot more counseling? If you could kind of give me an idea about that. And I also would like to know if we could increase your budget, what programs would benefit our kids the most so that we could be on an equal par with some of our neighboring towns?
Wow. Okay, Mary Jean, that is quite a question, and thank you. There is no doubt that our students, our staff, our community, there is suffering. It's just that is absolutely a fact, and we know that, and I appreciate you bringing that up. This is a balancing act. We can't. We know we need to balance what is going on financially with a lot of families and what we see in front of us contractually and what we're obligated to. So we've worked very hard on that. But there are some other components. We have been able to use the COVID-19 account for a lot of the equipment, if you will, some of the supplies, the more material components with a little bit of some supports. But I am eager to turn this over to Mr. Corporal. I can see her, you know, we're going to talk about some of perhaps the ESSER2 funding and get some answers to your questions that I am delighted to have given an opportunity to. Thank you.
Wendy. So a few things are happening along at the same time. So as you know, March 1st, Monday, bringing back all the students in pre-K to 2. We're at about an 88% in-person rate, which means the number of remote learners will be significantly less than they were previously, which is very exciting. We held 2 parent evenings, one for Hill and Plain and Northville to talk to the parents, and I'm going to host one in April on about the second week for all the remote parents who might still be hesitant to figure out what we could do to help them transition their children back. As a part of the transition process for the pre-K to 2 and the 3 to 5 schools, and eventually for the middle school and high school, we're able to bring students back in late April. We are talking about those students who are exhibiting mental health concerns, whether they're in remote or in person. We've been diligently tracking that information, been doing outreach with our social workers, school psychologists, and guidance team. And we're creating transition plans for those kids when they come back to school. That'll be our universal screener, meaning that we'll be applying resources for all the kids who need them. And we'll be looking at the level of supports that we're offering to students and how they're progressing on a 6 to 8 week cycle. And over time, we'll be ramping up student supports while kids are in school over the course of this year. What we're going to do is take that information, and Ms. Fallenbach had mentioned the ESSER2 grant funding. We have received for New Milford Public Schools $1,333,000.84, for which we must conduct a needs assessment for. It cannot be used to reduce the operating budget because we cannot supplant funding. That being said, you'll notice that I've put into the budget by reallocating funds. That summer school money of $25,000 is not an add. It's a reallocation from us taking $10,000 from curriculum writing and $15,000 from professional learning in order to institute a program at Scotticoke and New Milford High School for what I'll call credit recovery for the majority of 8th grade students and students who are starting at the senior year and working our way backward with as many slots as we could fill. Once we have the information on the mental health needs and supports coming off of the next month, I'll be using that data to meet with members of the cabinet, and I've requested and will be receiving a coach from the state of Connecticut to work with us to fill out our needs assessment and look at what we need from an unbiased person who can come in and say, maybe you need additional guidance members to have a laser-like focus on certain aspects of the work that you're trying to do for students. We know that the more emphasis we put on supporting children with their mental health and academic needs in tier 1, which is that first level of support that all students get, and then ramping up supports for our tier 2 students, that we will have less and less students who are going to be in need of academic and behavioral support in the level of intensity that's required for specialized programs. And recognizing that kids are going to come in with those kind of needs, we want to make sure that we're looking at every avenue that we could take, both academically for acceleration and remediation, and mental health wise in terms of what we can offer students and how we can ramp up our level of support, specifically in tier 1 and tier 2 for pre-K through 12 students and beyond, because we're educating at Litchfield Hills now to age 21. You had asked me what my wish list would be in terms of support. I think this year we're very fortunate to have that ESSER II CARES Act funding. It's good for 2 years. I believe that that amount of money, as you can see, it represents basically the increase that we're looking for in our operating budget. It will afford us the opportunity to do all sorts of wonderful things for children. For this year, I think the only thing that wasn't included that I'm not sure will come out of the needs assessment is trying to keep our class sizes low. You may have recognized that the enrollment that we're using is the March 1st enrollment. It is not October 1st as it was previously. Anthony and I have mined that data to make sure that we're capturing the students who in every grade level that are currently with us and adjusting appropriately where the numbers from March don't fit what we have for projections. But we were 81 students over the recommended projection from our enrollment report. And so having the new enrollment study will help us significantly in the future to adjust the numbers so that they better match what's happening in terms of enrollment. Ultimately, it would be nice if there were additional supports in classrooms for teachers. We don't know what the future is going to hold with the state of Connecticut offering remote instruction. I hear on a daily basis and would love to support the staff specifically at the starting at least at the kindergarten through grade, maybe 3, 4, 5 level. With some additional supports in the classroom, another set of hands to possibly watch over the computer and tend to the remote learners who every day I hear are hungry for that connection with their teacher. But again, my primary goal is going to be to work with families as teachers get vaccinated and people become more and more comfortable over time with kids being in school to transition as many kids back so that they could be with their peers as much as possible. But it's that unknown of not knowing about the remote that is for next year. That's causing all of us to wonder, will we have enough support for the teachers if they have to go another year of managing this dual role of remote and in-person learning? And so that would be my wish for them, would be to have another set of hands. Doesn't necessarily have to be so much a para-professional level, but some kind of instructional tutor support in those rooms for them.
And Alicia and Wendy, if I could just piggyback for a moment on that too. So within our collaborative partnership, when we're talking about, we have a weekly coronavirus task force. One of the things that we were aware of is the isolation, depression of our students. So we've been setting up meetings with our youth agency, who you'll be hearing coming up, where they're going to be going to a therapeutic model. and also the availability when our teachers are vaccinated. And Alicia brings them back into the 5-day model where our youth services will be able to come back and be helpful to the schools as a partnership. Also, our Park and Rec team will be at the ready as well, all to help our children and our schools with a partnership, both with the Board of Ed and the town of New Milford.
Well, I'd just like to say one more thing. Thank you. And I do hope that nobody on this town council or Board of Finance will recommend any further cuts to the Board of Education. It cannot go any lower. They are at bare bones. And you can see by Alicia DeCorpo's description about what the needs are that we cannot not do this to our kids to lower this budget any further. Thank you.
I'll defer to Tom.
Tom, you have to unmute yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank Mr. Corpo, Wendy, and the entire Board of Ed for a great job on this budget. I think it was very thoughtful and well thought out. And I think the taxpayer is not going to have an issue with this. I do want to ask, because Wendy, in your presentation, you pointed out our cost per student being at the lowest. And in a previous question, I don't want anybody in town thinking that that means that our scores and our college placement and our job placement is at the bottom of that list. So if you can just kind of elaborate on where we are spending our money and what is the result our children are getting? What kind of results are our kids getting?
That's actually, thank you so much for pointing that out. That's super important. Our return on investment is amazing. We do extremely well and are above state averages. And if you have that breakdown, I did not include that slide. I just agree. We do extremely well with the funds that are allocated. And so we're very proud of that, quite frankly. I did have a slide, but I didn't include it on some of the return. I didn't want to put together all this information. So, but we can give you a brief. Go ahead, Alicia.
So, Mr. Esposito, I sit on the long-term recovery committee with Katie Francis, and I've been funneling a lot of data into that report that'll be furnished to the state of Connecticut that'll demonstrate our academic scores against all of the area districts and how we're performing. We are above the state average in almost every academic area, and that's important to note because the science standards just came out and our students took the assessment 2 years ago for the first time. There was a gap in the assessment for this year, so we won't have the same level of accountability indices that we had in the past. But we're looking at our internal data right now, even coming out of COVID, with an assessment that we use, and it's very promising in specific grade levels. And so I always say we want to lead with the data and make informed decisions. And so you'll be able to see the return on investment for per pupil, as well as how we're performing academically against the DIRG coming out of that report. The one thing that I wish that we did that we don't have that would really help us, and it'll be furnished in that report as well, is because we have gaps in coverage in different areas of curriculum for tier 1 and 2. Our administrative team and our teachers are really spread thin, and we need more specialized supports in areas so that we can do more with pathways from the middle school to the high school, work closely on building our internship program with an actual teacher because right now we have somebody who's doing it on a small stipend, but we really could use a full-time person to be going and working with the Economic Development Commission and the council of which the corporation that I sit on, and trying to gather connectedness so that it's not done piecemeal, so that someone really could have a laser-like focus and build up those programs. And I know that's something that the town wants, but it's hard for us to do without some additional funding down the line, and we'll plan that out. And perhaps some additional personnel as well, just so the focus is there and there's a point of contact.
And I want to thank you both for a very, very complete answer. And that's why I mentioned this, because I don't want people that are listening, to walk away with the impression that because we are spending we're fiscally responsible or a little bit more, we're, the history here in New Milford as an agricultural and Yankee town was to get the biggest bang for their buck. And, and we didn't waste We didn't waste money. We got big results here, and we have consistently got big results here. And I think the Board of Ed has done an amazing job in delivering that. The kids, I have a senior and a freshman, so I'm as close to this as anybody in the room. And they want for nothing in these schools. I mean, I got a son who could use a poke a little bit more when he's sitting at his computer, and I can understand that. The kids weren't built to sit behind a screen, but they're adapting. Listen, years ago, we instituted all-day kindergarten. It was my second year on the council. That's almost 11 years ago, I think, right? I think Wendy would remember. And it was an amazing transformation. People in town thought that, oh my God, my little child is not going to be able to handle a whole day. Well, it was the reality was it was the parents that couldn't handle the whole day. I was one of those parents, and I knew it would be good for him. But, we have done some bold things in this community, and I am incredibly proud of the board and all the teachers and everybody on both sides from the town and the board to work together. We've always known that if we buy together, if we plan together, if we work together, just like we do in our own homes, just like we do in our own businesses, that we would be able to get, a fantastic value for our taxpayer, but live in a town that other people want to live in, and live in a town that we're proud to live in. And to teach the kids, those values when they go forward. I know my daughter got into her first choice of college. We're very proud of that. And I know a lot of proud families who have that. And it's because of the hard work that the kids put in, the teachers have put in, the board has put in. And, I don't want anybody walking away with the impression that because we don't spend as much as a town on the other side of the Derg, which most people don't understand what a Derg is, but I do now after this many years. We're producing kids that are going to have great lives and great jobs and great families. And hopefully they'll come back to our community, because that was one of the things we've been talking about for the last decade, is we were educating these fantastic kids, but they weren't coming back. And I think a lot more of those kids will come back because of the experience they're getting. I want to thank you all. I'm going to support this 100%. So you have my support. Thank you.
Dave?
Okay, for Tom, thank you for your kind words on all-day kindergarten. It took me a while to get that one going. And
Dave, if it wasn't for me,
I remember you coming to some of our committee meetings way back when you were a councilman.
Excuse me, I remember as well.
Yeah, and Mrs. Wallenbeck, yes, thank you for letting me be the Committee on Learning chairman. I appreciate that.
I remember, Dave, you and I having many a conversation about that.
Oh, yeah. And we're going to that graduation. It's coming up soon. But anyway, it does bother me about per pupil spending. And yes, our teachers don't do a good job. They do a fantastic job for what we give them. My concern is, imagine what they could do and the potential that we could reach if we just gave it a little bit more of a boost. That's where we could really, really make a difference. And I share Mary Jane's concerns about some of the social issues, I prefer to call them, social issues that we may encounter in all the grades. That's definitely something I'd consider. And I just want to confirm, like we had the police department on last night, and their increases were due to contractual obligations and unfunded mandates. And it sounds like the same thing with the Board of Education. They're contractual, they're unfunded, and you guys have the required services, and there's no way around those. And those appear to be your driving forces. Am I correct in that?
Yes, and that's why we tried to give you a breakdown. And those who have signed on to this, both in budget presentation here this evening, some of the slides were brought before the board, and we wanted to, again, share them with you to show where those increases are allocated and where they're expected, and bring as much information as we could to you. But you're exactly correct, David.
And just one other observation. The other night I asked about the turf field account and how much was in it. And bottom line was, it appeared that the Board of Ed was $50,000 short of their required, well, not required, but encouraged contributions. Do you know how much is in the account? I guess, Anthony, I'm asking you.
Yes, we
or
actually, we put the board in 17-18 end of the year balance contributed 50,000, 18-19, 50,000. And the Board of Ed collected team fees and banner sales of 10,225,000. Is that correct, Anthony? The total in the account as of January 31st, 2021 is 160,225. And I show a town contribution of 50,000. Am I correct? Thank you.
Okay, well, there seems
The town's 150.
Right. We just had that the other night.
We just had that from Olga.
That's okay. This number is as of January 31st. So if there's been some other activity since then, this is our most recent report to the board, January 31st.
okay. Well, if we could collaborate on that, and we'll get a firm number on that and see where we're at. Bottom line is, I don't want to get caught, when we have to replace it,
Right.
and then go to a supplemental appropriation and
Well, and to that point, David, when that project began, the conversation was working as a team to make sure that we try and fund that account for replacement. And so on the board side, when we designate our capital reserve request, we have tried to parcel out a component for that account accordingly. So I'm not quite sure of the actual numbers on the town side. All I know is the report that I have, but the most important point is that we recognize the financial liability, and the town and the board are working towards making sure that account is.
absolutely. Okay, I just want to know where we're at. We're in year 3, and I'd like to be up to date. That's all. Thank you.
Anthony, could you follow up with Olga tomorrow and make sure that our numbers are all?
Absolutely.
Good
Thank
idea.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy?
Yes. Hi, thanks. In the past, I have heard in prior years, there's been some concern over staffing and the level of administration that we have. And I thought this year during the budget deliberations and hearings that the Board of Ed had, there was some very, very good perspective shared in the presentation, Mr. Corpo, that you put together. And I was hoping perhaps for some of the members of Town Council and Board of Finance who might not have been able to see the presentation, perhaps you could double click on that, because I liked how you shared some additional perspective on the expanded needs and the growing responsibilities for staff, and in particular the administration, and what that might mean if we were to deprioritize some of these positions for this year.
Yes, thank you, Amy. So you can find it in the overall superintendent's budget presentation. There's a slide on slide 37 that shows all of the responsibilities, even of the central office cabinet, starting with the Department of Instruction and all of the oversight there, and the fact that there is no administration covering about maybe 30 areas that are state and federally guided and overseen, as well as local oversight. And we've done that for every department. So you can see not only all of the responsibilities for the building leadership and their assistant principals, but also the central office cabinet and what each of their departments is comprised of. For the majority of, for every principal, their duties are the same and the responsibilities are the same. And they've grown significantly over the last 15 years, to the point where, because we have gaps in that specific content oversight, many of our assistant principals are not only handling discipline, they're also overseeing pacing of curriculum in at least 2 academic areas. They are providing evaluations on 60 some odd teachers and up, which require several hours of meetings, almost as many meetings and hours to put in for those evaluations to do them well and effectively as there are school days. And so I do encourage you to look over what Amy is mentioning, because our administrative team at the central office as well as at the building level are stretched incredibly thin, and any loss to any member of any of those departments would cause a hole that we could not fill. And I do worry about the level of responsibility for each member of the cabinet, and allowing them the opportunity to have what I like to term a work-life balance that is very difficult to exist right now because of the amount of workload that everyone has taken on here. So we are going to obviously be working with the state of Connecticut as that they make changes to, or they embark on making changes about teacher evaluation and things of that nature that will be impacting our administrative team, so that we can look to see if over time we'll be able to ease up some of the responsibilities there with any changes, both on the teacher side and the administrators. But take a look at those slides. I agree, Amy. I think they're very eye-opening and tell the story of where we are administratively at every level of the organization.
Thank you. And thank you and the rest of the team for all the time you've put into the budget preparation. I appreciate it.
Doug?
Hi, thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate the BOE and all the members and all the hard work all the team has done. Obviously, being on the turf committee with Wendy and Joe and Pete as the chairman, we all know how important, as David mentioned, about having the funding to replace it. And no one knows, I guess, more than me. I still have all the bookwork and stuff, what the costs are. So I'm appreciative of the BOE putting this money away, as well as the town. So when it does come for replacement, we'll have those funds there. So you guys work extremely hard. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't see, countless hours. And so I want to thank all of you for your hard work. And like I'll echo my Councilman Esposito, I'm going to support this fully. And thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Doug.
Walter?
Yes, I'm going to echo all the praises that you've gotten from other people. My one question is, you've got a 2.14% increase, and other people have spoken and asked about contractual obligations and the like. How much of that increase is represented by contractual increases year over year?
Year over
And if
year.
you don't know it right off the top of your head, you could send it to us.
Well, is it fair to say, Anthony, and I'll just speak, 64% of the 893, correct, Anthony? And are you asking for our bargaining units, or we have
Now,
7?
I know you got 7 bargaining units. I was just thinking if, for example, I'm going to round it off. 2% was you increase. You asked for increase over last year's budget. Of that 2%, how much of it would be because of the contractual obligations and mandates that have come through?
Right. Right. The
Not
salaries.
necessarily the mandate.
No. That's fair point. The salaries alone are at 2.29%.
Okay. So essentially, if I compare operation budgets year over year and take out the contractual obligation raise, you're actually below your operating budget of the previous year?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Correct. And thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions for the board?
Diane.
Diane?
Thank you.
There she goes.
I just tried to unmute and I couldn't find my chat. I raised my hand, so I raised my hand literally. I apologize. I too plan to support this budget. I feel it's very lean.
Lean in, Diane. We can't hear you.
I'll lean in. Okay. It seems very lean to me, especially given the difficulties this year. I was impressed with it. My daughter is a kindergarten teacher in New Jersey, and I can concur that the teacher evaluations, sorry, I don't know if I'm leaning in enough. Teacher evaluations have been extraordinarily difficult. As a teacher, what I hear from her, they're very tough because she does. She has quite a few children who are 100% remote, and they do a hybrid where half the students are there until noon. They go home for lunch, and they hit the computer for the remainder of the day. And so for a teacher to be on camera all day long with parents, watching them and evaluating them and trying to keep the kids on track, and then having to also know that your administration is viewing you as well. It's so stressful. It's so difficult. And then on the other hand, she also has to evaluate her children, some of whom she's not even met in person because they're 100% digital. And it's just so difficult because she has really no idea how they process, how they work with other children. They're not able to work in teams. It's been a hideous year all around, and I commend you guys for all that you do. It's just so difficult. So I think you've done a remarkable job, and I've loved hearing all of your commentary. I plan to support you 100%. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diane. Tom?
One last question. Is the elephant in the room for people with kids who are seniors?
Is
What
this
are
the councilman or the dad?
we know? We know this is the dad speaking.
Gotcha.
How are we going to handle the prom for these kids, and how are we going to handle their graduation? This has been difficult for 2 back-to-back years. These kids didn't even get a chance to go to school as an entire group. At least last year's kids were together until March 14th or 13th. So she's on the other side of the wall. I don't know if she's listening right now.
She probably is, Tom.
Yeah.
She definitely is.
She is now.
Spoiler
She
alert.
is now.
She is now. So if you could give me any sort of direction that I could calm this train down here, it would be help.
Sure. I'll give you the board and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Corpo. The entire Board of Education recognizes completely everything that you just described. It is sadly accurate. Last year's graduation was exceptional. We did the best we could, and we thought that this town in its entirety, it was not done just by the Board of Education. It was done with, all of the town collaborating to make sure that a day was recognized. But after a year of this, we need a little bit more than a day, and we know that. So your question is completely valid. Especially when we're sending our seniors on to another step in their life, and it is such a milestone that you just it's very difficult to put into words. I know that there have been some preliminary conversations where we're going, and as you know, with this pandemic, it changes depending on some of the guidelines. But we are in those conversations. I don't know if you wanted to add anything in more detail, Mr. Corpo, on that.
Okay, I'm off mute. So I'm the person who asks Mr. Shagru and his team this question. Like, I've been asking him weekly, and I know he's working on it, and I don't want to steal his thunder. So I would really love it if Mike Sanillo can let him in. He is on the attendee list, and I'd love for him to speak for the high school because I'm so proud of the effort of him and his team and what they were able to do last year. And I know from what he's told me that he's been working on it. And I want to give him the opportunity to speak to that if we could move him into the panelist.
That'd be great.
Is he actually still here?
Hopefully
I don't
he is.
see
He
him.
was a little while
Who
ago.
do you want? Who do you want?
Chagru.
If
No,
not,
he's
I could
gone.
answer it. Did he leave?
Yeah,
Okay, so I'll
he's-
answer it for you.
He's gone.
So I proposed a couple of ideas to him in the event that the venue that they're using doesn't allow the opportunity for kids to socially distance and have that number of kids on site. But right now they are able to work with the venue to see what's possible. So there's a very strong chance that it could be held at the venue and just probably kids will be wearing masks with their gowns. It's gonna look a little different than it used to be if it's possible to have it there. We're exploring alternate ideas. I know our area districts, and we'll work with the health director. So don't block your ears, Mayor Bass. We're looking at maybe a wooden dance floor outside on the grounds as a potential with social distancing, food trucks, things like that. So anything that we could do to make this more tangible, like Mr. Chagru did last year with the graduation ceremony. We have WestCon booked. We have our date and time set. If WestCon will allow us the opportunity to do something there, we can. But I know that Mr. Chagru is looking as a backup plan to do the car parade in the event that we can't have it at WestCon. So those are some of the ideas that we're throwing out there. He's, like I said, working with the venue, working with the advisors, and bringing in kids to talk to them about what they'd like to see. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned. That's exactly
Great.
what I was going to say.
Thank you very much. I will convey that message. I'm sure it's going to bring some joy amongst her and her friends.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Hey,
very
I know
much.
I'm excited about it, you know.
And listen, the masks are just another accessory, right?
Right.
Just another
Very good,
accessory.
John.
Did we ever think we'd see them in every store we walk into?
Very
Yeah.
good. Very
Yeah.
good point.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Remember, it's all about what you could do when the state tells you could do it, and how you do it
Exactly.
is very creative and working with the health officials. So
That's
I have
right.
to throw in that little disclaimer.
Right.
It'll be something.
It'll be great, I'm sure. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I don't see any other hands raised. Okay, going once, going twice. So Wendy and Superintendent DeCorpo, we want to thank you and the Board of Education, your administrative team, our teachers, our paraeducators, our facilities team, everyone for helping our kids migrate through this pandemic. It's new for everyone, and I cannot thank you enough for collaborating, your continued collaboration, and I look forward to continuing that. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you all for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
a chance.
Great
Great
job.
job.
Thank
You
you.
guys.
And have a good evening, everybody.
Night.
So Mike, we're going to do a call for anybody from the public that would like to have public participation.
Okay, so everyone who wants to do a post-meeting public participation, Pete, 3 minutes or 5 minutes?
3 minutes.
3 minutes like we did at the beginning. Raise your hand. That doesn't mean literally hold your hand to the camera. That means use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. I know I have to do this every night. Just give me a minute. I'll move the members of the Board of Ed down to attendees, and that should give us enough time to.
So Mike, I don't see anybody with their hands raised.
No.
So what I'd like to do is may have a motion to recess the
Right.
So
town.
moved.
Second.
Nope, not adjourned, Elaine. All those in
No.
favor from the town council, signify.
Recess.
Aye.
Just like school.
No. Any abstentions? Walter?
Yes, I'd like to move for a recess until Monday, March 1st at 7 PM. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Have a good
Thank you,
weekend.
Everybody.
Yeah. Good night.
Have a good evening, everyone. Good night.
You too,
Bye-bye.
Walter.
Good night.